Without further delay, the name is Nat, that's N-A-T without the G, and I work at Exceptional Individuals, a social enterprise that supports neurodivergent individuals flourish in the workplace. Today, we are taking a deep dive on what jobs are even suitable for neurodivergent individuals. You know what? Not the easiest question to answer, and actually a little bit misleading, but we are going to go into that. Today, we are predominantly focusing on dyslexia, dyspraxia, autism, and ADHD, but of course, neurodivergence doesn't have a defined category, expands and molds and gels into a variety of factors, conditions, understandings, thought patterns. Do not feel that this is going to exclude anyone. Here's a picture of me looking all employed, and I can tell you my journey to find inclusive employment was a bumpy one. I have started off in media and worked in television production, but truthfully, I didn't find it an overly inclusive place at all for someone with my way of processing the world, someone with dyslexia and dyspraxia. I started bopping around, working in charity sectors, as honestly, I thought they might be a bit more inclusive, but in many ways, they can be a bit more cutthroat. And the reason is because lack of money, lack of resources, people expect a lot from an individual. I started doing freelancing, and I love doing freelancing. But then while I was really great at the actual role, I really struggled with my finances and all the accounting. See, it has been a journey. I work at Exceptional Individuals, a lovely inclusive organization, but I appreciate we are in the minority. We're going to look today a bit broader than just this one organization. Here's our lovely team. Today you got myself in the chat, you got April in the chat, and we've got our two interns from America, Blake and Daniela. As a team, we are neurodivergent, and we have all experienced challenges with employment. Every week we deliver fascinating webinars, even if I do say so myself. The last one we did on, do I have a reading disorder? Did you know dyslexia is just one of many different types of reading disorders? So we had a little deep dive into that. You can have a little click through. You can see what we're all getting about. Oh, look, lots of fun interactivity and useful graphics. Definitely check that out. It was edited by the wonderful April. All right, neurodivergent jobs. If any of you are expecting a super hard and fast concrete answer by the end of this, you may be disappointed, but I will do my absolute best to give you all the pieces of the puzzle you need in order to make your own informed decision. Now, if we are successful today, and that is an if, we are going to look at the job hunting, see if we can find ourselves a nice job. Workplace inclusion. How do we know if a job is inclusive? Inclusive employers. Where are they? Who are they? And why are they hiding? Disability confidence scheme. We're going to be looking at schemes that are available in order to help find jobs which are inclusive. We're going to be looking at the Equality Act and some funding. It should be noted that today definitely does have a UK focus, but a lot of these things are going to be interchangeable and will have equivalents depending where you are in the world. What sector do you think is best suited for neurodivergent individuals? This is a trick question if you haven't already guessed. There is no ideal sector. Okay, IT and communications, come on your stereotypes. Stop putting us in a pigeonhole box. Yeah, everyone's autistic. Let's put them in IT. There isn't anything inherently baked into us individuals which make us gravitate towards IT, but that's just what we do. Construction, I would probably say, is they have a long way to go to be inclusive. Education, you'd like to think they go by best practice. There's systems and processes in place. Healthcare, I would love to say healthcare. From my understanding, it's quite stressful. Interesting, none of you put transportation. Why do loads of people with autism love trains? It's a good question. My theory to that is trains are predictable, there's routine, there is structure, but there is also an endless amount of information you can learn and develop. People who have autism typically have a profound interest in an area. They like being experts. They love kind of diving in deep, but we also don't like being overwhelmed. That's just my 2 cents. We should also bear in mind that ND stands like for everything. So we aren't just talking about autistic individuals here. So we might have some challenges. Overwhelming, yep. Oh, April says bit on the fence about retail as good job for neurodivergent people, while an autistic person might enjoy stacking shelves, they might find the noise overwhelming. What have we gained from all of this? We've gained that there isn't a perfect job. We're all individuals. Sam says retail would kill me. I worked in retail. It nearly did kill me. What makes a job well suited for a neurodivergent person, in your opinion? Is there like perfect job? Is it a particular sector, or is there something else that would make a job well suited? Now, I know I'm meant to be answering this question today, but it's good to see what all of you already think, to see if we are aligned. Alone time? Nice. A quiet environment, flexibility and adaptability. I would probably gravitate more towards that one, just because not all of us like quiet environments. We have to appreciate that people are different. I think it's always good to have an option for a quiet space. Clear job description, absolutely. I don't want any hidden surprises. What am I actually getting paid for? Because that is what I'm going to be expecting. Hybrid working, nice. Flexibility, autonomy, service management, variety, plays into interests. I like that a lot. Retention rate skyrockets when you actually enjoy a job. Who would have thought? Wonder where the employer is willing to support effective and make reasonable adjustments. Yep. Again, we're not looking at a particular sector. We're looking at qualities of the company or potentially even the management. Autonomy over how to do each tasks. People do not quit companies. They quit managers. That's because if you had a company that was, a manager that was treating you well, even if the job is boring and dull, most people would still stay there because they would be happy. So I think that's quite an interesting way of looking at it. Nice. So we've got flexibility, supportive environments, clear expectations, inclusive workplace. It is the culture which is the important factor. Now we got that, let's look at how we can find that all-inclusive culture. What is an inclusive employer? So if we have decided that culture is arguably the most important factor to make a job inclusive, how do we get an employer that is inclusive? I think we need to break down what it actually means. What's inclusive? What's not inclusive? And you're right, April, there is a lot of overlaps between the inclusive business culture webinar. What makes an employer inclusive? And the one that actually listens to their staff and willing to adapt their needs. One that is prepared to take a person-led approach and utilize reasonable adjustment if needed. One who treats you as an individual, interview process, clear expectations, an employer who cares, an employer who treats everyone as an individual basis. So we're getting a lot of individuality here. While our cookie cutter mold of capitalism has produced conveyor belt systems, we are saying actually, we want to be an individual. We want things tailored to us. We've got a bit of a mismatch here between these titans of businesses compared to what the every person is actually asking. We've got adaptive employers, ones that are malleable. They aren't sticking to the book just because the book says so. Individualized approach. They know who you are. They're not treating you as a label or a diagnosis. They're treating you as a person. Inclusive culture, something that communicates to everyone. Employee support, accommodations, not once you've had challenges, ideally before any challenges arise. So how do we find these good employers or these jobs which kind of tickle our fancy? Now, I've shown this slide before. This is the newest up-to-date one. Every now and then you'll find guides, awards, recommendations about the best employers in the business. This one is the Inclusive Top 50 UK Employers, and they update it every year. Interestingly, West Midlands Fire Service has been like number one for several years. What is this fire department doing that is so amazing? I would love to know. We've had a few moving around here. We've got UK Power Network, Touchstone, Hastings Direct, Money Supermarket Group, Mott MacDonald. I can see some of you have put here. These lists, while they do have merit to them, let's face it, they can be a little bit biased. Why? Oh, probably because none of us live in the Midlands. Sorry if you live in the Midlands, but most people do not. We've already got an inherent issue with these lists. Let's actually check out the website. Let's have a look. Here we are. West Midlands, number one. Nice. Hastings. Okay, Eon. But you'll notice a lot of these companies aren't the most desirable, so they are more likely to be inclusive because they want to be able to engage talent. Where companies which we want to work for couldn't give a monkeys whether or not you feel comfortable, because they know if you don't take the job, there's going to be a whole line of other people willing to take it after you. I can recommend Kantar. I work a lot with them. They're lovely. But again, can I recommend them? I can't. I don't know. It's hard to recommend an entire company. Is Kellavina, is that like a Kellogg's company? Which makes sense. West Midlands again. It seems if you want a job that looks after you, move to the Midlands. Everyone's loving it there. Oh, hello. What do we say there? We've got Rachel says, we place some of our learners at Hastings Directs. They've all had an excellent experience. What I'm getting from this, Rachel, is this list is actually good, but it's only good if these jobs are available near you. You can see how I'm not saying they're a bad list. It's just only useful if you live nearby. But also, I've had people who have worked at, is it MITI, and had a poor experience. You can't always take these at face value. What other things? Let's look at some companies that are linked to neurodivergence. So which ones of these have a connection? Now, I'll spoil it already because I've done this slide before. They are related to neurodivergence. Walt Disney, dyslexic. Richard Branson, dyslexic. Steven Spielberg, dyslexic. Steve Jobs, dyslexic. All of them. Does that mean that these jobs are well suited to individuals with dyslexia? Not necessarily, because a lot of people who have dyslexia tend to be very good entrepreneurs, very good at creating businesses. But when a business gets so big, they leave. And then other people take over. And that culture isn't always transferred across. But on the other hand, maybe the root values are baked in innovation and different ways of thinking. So while I cannot say any of these companies in particular are well suited to neurodivergence, at least they were at the beginning, because the people who created them were neurodivergent. This is a really good way to find an inclusive organization, because an ERG is a network which has like-minded individuals who resonate with whatever the ERG is about. It shows you that they already exist. Yes, employee resource group. An employee resource group is like a community, a network. It's a place where, let's say you've got a ERG. Those people are definitely neurodivergent, and they have grouped together in order to spread awareness and to influence policies within the organization. You have a direct representative. You are not probably going to get an ERG in a small company. A lack of an ERG doesn't mean the company is bad, but it's normally a reflection of the company being financially successful and having a large population. Yeah, there's one thing to know is that not all places will have neurodiversity ERGs. They might just say have disability or ability or achieve networks. Depending on the size, they might not be as super niche. Holly says, I don't think that being neurodivergent is a guarantee of being a good employing ND people, especially across different neurotypes. My last boss was dyslexic and could not handle me being autistic. I agree with you, Holly. Recently, I was supporting an individual who was autistic into an organization where the person who ran it was ADHD, and they just could not understand that the way that the company operated was not conducive to that individual's. So maybe what we're saying is if an individual who founded the company had a particular you have that particular neurotype, maybe that might be more of an inkling that the processes may be more conducive to your way of thinking. But of course, there's no guarantee. And the whole spectrum of how we all think is so diverse. So I think you're right to call that out. Then they might not understand yours as it clashes, and it's really hard for them. So what are these companies have ND/disability ERGs? Microsoft has massive ones. SAP has a very famous one. Young, big one. Google has a good one, and IBM. Google does look after its employees, but not because they care, but because they need to attract that talent, because they are in an arms race to create the most best tech place ever. So maybe this is another question to all of you. Does it matter the reason why an organization is trying to be inclusive towards you? Or does it not matter how long as they are being? I often worry that if they give these policies, they can equally take them away again. Oops. Catherine says, a company I work for has an NDERG, but it seems to be more for parents and carers of ND folk, and it sometimes feels like their goal run is different direction too. Catherine, nail on the head there. I completely agree. What Catherine was saying there is these employee networks ideally should be for neurodivergent employees to support themselves and to influence change. But often people who are parents of neurodiverse children will take over the group. I have seen that firsthand. That is a very good observation and something to be aware of about how many people are allies and how many people are ND individuals. Oh, Daniela says intention matters. Absolutely. I don't want that. And I see that some of these big companies have these policies. They do have these policies, they change as well. And since doing this webinar, I had to update a lot of information, and a lot of the companies which said they did things for a certain amount of time, and then they dropped off the radar. Also, many lovely comments. This is great, everyone. Here are some ND programs that have existed at one point in time. I just want you to let me know which ones do you like the sound of, and then I'm going to tell you which ones currently still exist. Because this is something when, if you do a little bit of Googling on the internet, you'll see that all these companies are doing amazing things, but a lot of them run it as like a pilot project and don't often pick it up for a second season. So BBC provides ND work experience. The BBC has had a lot of autistic focused programs, but they are always stopping. It's not particularly consistent. Ford, they do run some good programs. Now, the Ford Works or Ford Inclusion Works program was running, and since doing research, I haven't found any evidence that it's still running. They do, however, have a new program which is supporting people who are long-term unemployed back to workforce. And don't get me wrong, that's good. I can't help but think that they are just going to what the flavor of the month is, rather than that kind of consistent narrative. Capital One recognize neurodiverse hiring. Goldman Sachs does a lot in the role. EY. So a lot of these really big investment financial industries, they want to be inclusive because they want to make sure that they get the absolute best talent. Also for retention rates, because ND people are shown to have high retention. These companies are always getting their employees like stolen from other companies. Oh, are they all level? These ones is that when we are looking at roles which are able to entice neurodiverse people, they are starting from the ground upwards. If you are more senior, there may be programs available, but they're probably not going to be as tailored. So here are some other programs. Ultron, which is an engineering company. I hadn't actually heard of them before, but they said 75% of their workforce is autistic. Pretty incredible. I like that because 100% would make me feel too much like a bit of a novelty, but just a decent percentage, it seems to be quite representative of the type of jobs that they have available. Microsoft have a hiring program for diversity-focused career development. Ford Works, like I mentioned, I am not certain it is still running, but it was in partnership with an additional company. And from what I understood, it was more about making sure the recruitment process was inclusive and had the right adjustments to begin with. SAP, a German company, they are always doing loads of things in that area. They are, however, gigantic. EY, Ernst & Young, employs over 100 in neurodiverse centers of excellence. They have, I think, several centers which are purely made for neurodivergence. The most recent one, I want to say, is in Manchester. And JP Morgan have their Autism at Work program has a 99% retention. That backs up what I said earlier about ND people being more likely to stay in roles. Expanding globally, the Dandelion, the Career Center for Autistics, HP Spectrum Success, hiring and retention, Dell, another hiring program. Now, in terms of ones I've personally worked with, GQ, Government Department, very good. Universal Music, I know they're also doing a lot of things to support neurodiverse talent at the moment. Here's a good question to all of you. Would you want a program which is just inclusive overall, or would you want one which is tailored for neurodivergence? I ask that because I don't know if I would want to say, I came for an autism scheme, because I don't want to always be like singled out. But on the other hand, if it means I'm more likely to get a role, maybe I'm okay with that. Holly says, as a quality engineer, I can confirm that this is very compatible with autistic brains. But what do these programs involve that make them ND friendly? They're all different. A lot of the time, it is how they structure their programs. They'll break things down. If done correctly, every step of the process has been heavily audited. If there's one thing I've learned since doing a lot of consultancy with large organizations, they have too many employees and not enough to do. They spend a lot of time on something that I might take an hour at, where they might spend several months kind of meetings. So they have definitely put thought into it. But there is such a thing as too many chefs. Or do you know any charities that are good? Plenty. Charityjobs.com, or I think that one, they has some really good charities. Go on those lists. Not all charities are great, by the way, and that's really important to know because a lot of them are very stretched and it can be quite a chaotic environment. How do we locate these ND programs? Now, there are lists available. They get outdated quickly. You've always got to check. And sometimes they do like round rotations. So do not just go on the website when you need a job. Often it's good to look in advance to make sure you don't miss that tiny window. All right. Have you ever heard of Disability Confident? This is a UK scheme. Maybe there's similar schemes where you are. These are organizations which have said, I'll be inclusive. This sticker, I don't know how much value you put into it, but it is not a bad resource. Let's click this little link. Oh, look, Disability Confident. But can we find out? So here, if someone says they have a level 1 Disability Confident thing, you can see all the commitments that they have signed up to. These are things that can hold them accountable to. Level 2, much better than level 1, and level 3, much better. Ideally, we want to find a list of these employers because where do we find them? Here we are. Employers that are signed up to the Disability Confidence Scheme. This is what you want. Now, that's a big statement, but they have definitely all agreed to support people. On here, what I like to do is search for leaders and work my way down. Let's say, a Baker Care Service. Maybe I want to work in Boston, in the UK, Boston, and I know they are committed to supporting people with different needs. So that is something I might hold them accountable to, should that be a role I'm particularly interested in. They, in theory, have signed up to be inclusive, but is that just one manager or is that the entire organization? So there are different factors we need to take into consideration. This is a little logo that you'll often see at the bottom of websites. Just some companies, for example, that are disability confident leaders. It doesn't mean you're guaranteed to have a good experience, but it does mean that at least they are trying. I had a great experience with disability aware employers when supporting students. See, that's what I like to hear. I can't speak for every one of them because there's a lot, but if you want to get level 2 or level 3, you do have to put some work in. It's showing a good initiative. They are on the gov.site site when you search apprenticeships too. Oh, that is good to know. B says, what would someone who suspects they are neurodiverse, but who are on the NHS waiting list / can't afford a diagnosis at the moment, as they are unemployed, would they be able to disclose this to an employer? If so, how would they approach this? You do not need to have any proof in order to access these schemes, because if you did, that would count as discrimination. If you resonate with those qualities, you would still be eligible to apply for that. Of course, that means maybe some people might take abuse of the system, but I think the amount of people who actually benefits is far greater. We've also got Exceptional Individuals. That's our company. We work with a range of companies. We're still a small organization. We don't have all the jobs in the world, but we do have a few. Currently, we're working really heavily with Aviva, Autocon, Ryman's. There's all jobs coming up. So these are just some of the companies we work with. How do we know they're inclusive? We don't, but we have trained every one of these companies, trained their managers, their staff to make sure that they have had awareness training. Does this make them an ideal employer? Maybe not. But it's also worth noting, let's say Financial Times. I trained them a few years back. They were an amazing employer at the time, but people change, roles change. Am I able to say still, without a shadow of a doubt? It's always being mindful about being really transparent about when these lists were created and when they were updated. Okay, this is a section that I think a lot of you will find very interesting. Specialised Job Boards. Are there places where you can go to which have done all the hard work for you? Rather than you having to scout out every company which claims to be inclusive, someone else has done it for you. I do not get any kind of thing for them. However, these are all companies which claim to do it. So let's go to Even Break. This is a job board for disabled candidates. I know what you're thinking, this does not look like me. It is pan-disability. Neurodivergence does count, but I understand if that's not really your thing. As you can see here, we've got some good companies. I would say it's no harm putting yourself on there, sending them your CV, having a little look at what jobs are available. I don't know, let's be stereotypical and look at IT technician. It will not actually say why they're on these lists. We've got, a chief executive role. What makes this suitable for those with a disability? Interestingly, it actually doesn't say. While maybe there is some guarantee that this organization is able to give. We've also got, and this is another website which claims to support people from diverse backgrounds and disabilities. It seems to be more focused on organizations. There is a section where you pay. Be mindful that this seems to be more focused at companies than individuals. disability job site. Says what it is on the tin, really. This one has jobs available. Have any of you actually been onto any of these sites? Should you put it on your CV? I would say no. And the reason I'd say no is we can't guarantee people's understanding of neurodivergence, so they very well could interpret it as a negative. Now, on the flip side, if that's how they interpret it, do you really want to work for them? And the other thing, it all depends on how you paint the picture. Are you saying I have a disability, I can't do something? Or are you saying, I can absolutely do this, I'm amazing. My dyslexia, for example, is part of my unique selling point. So it's all about how you frame it and how you word it. Or Lorraine says, I would highly recommend you reach out to many organizations out there that can offer quality career advice. Yes, subconscious discrimination and bias is a thing. What other ones? Remploy used to be a big player. However, Maximus bought them out or something, and now they only really exist in Scotland and a few places up north. So if that's for you, check out Remploy. If you're in the South, exceptional individuals, yay! If any of you I've submitted my CV to you now. We aren't necessarily a recruitment company in the traditional sense. We work with companies, and if they have roles available, we will promote them on our socials and reach out to people who are appropriate. But it's not like we have an endless supply of jobs. I'm not trying to tell you not to go to us. Expectations. Auticon. This is an IT company which specializes in those with autism. So this is a whole company rather than trying to find you external jobs. If this is the sector you're into, I recommend it. If it's not the sector you're interested in, I wouldn't recommend it. Try to go for jobs you actually want to do, not just because you think they're going to be the most inclusive. And one of the newest organizations on the block is Neuropool. I met the founder a while ago, really nice guy. The company is still really early on, okay? I wouldn't be surprised if the amount of jobs they have is minimal, but they seem to be starting off with a really good track record. And let's have a little look. Oh, I want a job. Upload your CV, build a profile, apply for jobs. It sounds quite standard. But my big question is, after you filled out what neurodivergence you have, uploaded your CV, what happens next? And these companies that they have available, why are they inclusive? So make sure you do your research. Yeah, so those are the key ones. Let's keep going to some questions. I think I noticed something on that last one to say that the company supports VI applicants. I feel like I should know what that is. Can you let me know? I've been diagnosed very recently and I'm not ready to disclose this yet. Can I disclose my diagnosis to the employer after being hired and feel comfortable to do? Yeah, absolutely can. The sooner you disclose, the sooner you can get support, but you are at no obligation to disclose. That's your choice. If you choose to do it, that's up to you. If you do it a week later, a month later, a year later, never, that's also completely fine. So here are some other tips. Online groups. LinkedIn has some good groups. Neurodiversity in business are often posting groups and opportunities, networking events, which are aimed at neurodivergence. There are often charities that do support for this, but a lot of time you've got to meet their eligibility criteria. Be open, practice, advocate, seek allies. Like I said, organizations are rarely inclusive. It's typically managers. If you find someone who is really supportive, and if you have the choice to disclose, some of us are very visibly autistic. I say to people, if there's an elephant in the room, you should talk about it. What that means is if you clearly have something else going on, it's better to be upfront. I'd rather frame the narrative my way rather than letting people make up their own story. So a quick summary, we looked at maybe ERGs, ND programs. The real key takeaway here is there isn't a particular sector or a job. I'm not going to say a gardener, best job in the world for those with dyspraxia, because it doesn't work like that. But it's about a company which values difference rather than just accepts difference. And it's about companies which see you as an asset for the long term, not just the flavor of the month. One thing I would always recommend know that even if a job isn't 100% perfect for you, there is support within the workplace. So let's say you meet 100% of the job role. Do not feel that you have to meet 100%. Quite often jobs will say essential skill. And those with autism will look at it and be like, yeah, see, I'm not 100% great at that, so I obviously can't apply for that. It's not true. You can still apply for the role and know that there is in-work support which can prop that up. Annoyingly, you do have to be in employment in order to gain this support. It's good to know, but isn't necessarily going to help you in the search for a job. Now, hopefully you enjoyed today. And if you did, check out next week. We are doing the history of Asperger Syndrome. But this webinar is the history on this woman, Lorna Wing. Believe it or not, Asperger Syndrome wasn't actually founded by this geezer, Hans Asperger. It was founded years later after we found his research. And then Lorna was like, you know what? I'm going to call it after him. We're going to be looking at the history of it, why it was, where it came about, and why we no longer use it. All you need to do is go on Eventbrite and search for it, and I'm sure you'll find it. However you found today, fabulous webinar. Thanks so much for letting me join in. Thank you for attending. I have your website on our online list of useful career recruitment sites. Brilliant. We'll definitely recommend. Everyone, you're always welcome. Like I said, even if you get a couple of little gems out of this session, hopefully it was a good use of your time. We have uploaded webinars of all the ones we do. Even today will be uploaded shortly. Do check them out. We have some really good ones as well. And we've got Jobs for Dyslexics, which, is a really good webinar to watch, particularly if you have dyslexia. We also have dyslexia in the workplace, autism discrimination. There's some really great content there. And here is our details. If you do want to get in contact, check out our website. You may find some useful starting points there for a further discussion. If you do have a more personal question, just drop us an email at admin@exceptionalindividuals.com. Oh, how would you recommend supporting an autistic individual who wants to work but finds the planning and the searching overwhelming? In a day, set your goals out. Do not focus on the overall task. Focus on one tiny element. That is the only thing you need to do today. Let's just get that done. And it could be as simple as bookmarking some websites or finding one site. And if there's nothing on it, check the next day. Often we try to do too much in one time and it's very overwhelming. Also set expectations. Can you recommend training for managers of ND staff? Yeah, man, that's literally what we do. Contact us. We do training all the time for companies, managers, organizations, and it's got 5 out of 5 ratings. Admittedly, I always ask people to rate me favorably, but still, I like to think it's still highly regarded. Cool. I think we are done for the day, everyone. Thank you so much for attending. I hope it was useful. Catch you next week. Next week will be a really interesting one. I promise you will not be able to find that information anywhere else. Cool. Thanks, everyone. Loving the feedback. And catch you soon. Enjoy your day. Bye. See you later.